Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Healthy Waves, the podcast where we dive deep into the transformative conversations with the thought leaders, healers, experts to uncover. And I have to say this that I'm your host Avik, and I have to say here that we are exploring the powerful themes that touch the core of our being spiritual growth, mindfulness, non duality, and the incredible transformation from fear to love. So, we'll also be diving deep into the profound connection between the gut health and the mental well being. And for that, get ready for the conversation that is filled with the insights, inspirations, and the practical takeaways that can change your life. So, before we delve deep into this, I'll quickly love to introduce you to both of our lovely guests, starting with Susan Michelle. So, welcome to the show, Susan.
Oh, thank you, Avik. It's great to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce to you, dear listeners. Um, Dear listeners, Susan has spent over 30 years studying a course in miracles and uh, is the author of Surrender to Joy from Suicide to Serenity. A two-time suicide survivor, and she knows firsthand like what it means to feel overwhelmed by the pain, and also, uh, also she knows the path to the healing that one that begins with facing our deepest wounds and uh, embracing forgiveness and gratitude. So her work focuses on helping people uncover and process the emotional pain, allowing them to transform and awaken to their innate brilliance. So, today, Susan will share her personal journey and the wisdom of A Course in Miracles and how we can shift from fear to love. So, on the other hand, we have another beautiful guest, Jen. Jen Aunt Coles. So, welcome to the show, Jen.
Hey there. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Lovely, lovely. So, I'll love to introduce you with all the listeners, Jen. So, dear listeners, Jen, aka the SIBO coach, SIBO coach. Am I correct, Jen?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, correct. So, dear listeners, Jen is a force in the functional and the integrative medicine. So, after decades of battling chronic gut issues and even experiencing broken heart syndrome, Jane turned her health struggles into a mission. Like she now helps high performing professionals overcome the gut dysfunction so that they can unlock the vibrant energy and peak performance. So, with a rebellious approach to the holistic healing, she is here to challenge the conventional medicine and show us how the gut brain connection is the key to mental clarity and the overall well being. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. I know you definitely wanted to jump right into the discussion. So, without further ado, let's welcome again to both of you. Welcome to the shows, Jen and Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. So, first, I'll come to Susan. Susan, you have spoken openly about your experience with this suicide and uh, finding healing through A Course in Miracles. So, if you can take us back to that moment when everything changed for you.
Yeah, I am a two-time suicide survivor, which happened when I was about 20 years old. I had a lot of insecurities growing up. There was a lot of dysfunction in my family. And I
Mhm.
didn't know how to process feelings. That was a major block in our family. So I had a lot of feelings that built up over years and years and years. And then finally, at the age of 20, I just decided I wanted out. So I ingested 6 bottles of sleeping pills, not
Oh,
once, but twice. And both times, thank God, my attempts did not work. And I would say after that is when my healing really began. At the age of 25 years old, 5 years after my suicide attempt, when I pretty much was back in my right mind, I was in New York City. I was a commercial model. And a friend of mine who I met at a casting invited me to a Marianne Williamson lecture. And that's when I heard the first thought system that ever made sense to me. As I listened to her speak, I just knew that I had found my path home because everything she said made so much sense. Um, a Course in Miracles was actually written or channeled, I should say, by a woman
Okay.
named Helen Schuckman in 1966 to 1972. I found it when I was 25 years old, and the intro states, "Nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." And what that means is that the only thing that's real is the love. Like we need to bring our pain points to the surface in order to transform them, which has been the focus of my course of study. But ultimately, the only thing that's real is the love. And the whole subject is just so fascinating and transformational.
That's amazing. I mean, uh, and thank God you are here. That day that day that instant was missed, and we are here with you today. So that's really amazing, I have to say. So yeah, and so uh, what was it about a course that resonated so deeply? I mean, if you can share.
I Good question, Avik. I
Mhm.
grew up in a traditional Christian household. My mother was Lutheran, so that
Okay.
is what I practiced. And it never, although I was fascinated with Jesus and I was fascinated with God and the power of unconditional love, the whole thought system behind traditional religion never really with me.
Oh.
There was something in the words of Marianne Williamson explaining the Course in Miracles, because Course in Miracles is very difficult to understand. It's when I first picked it up, I couldn't understand what anything meant. But when I was listening to someone explain the meaning, basically the gist of everything that she was saying made so much sense. I had a paragraph that got downloaded to me a little before I started writing my book.
Mhm.
I write, "My passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real." This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. And that is really a lot of what A Course in Miracles is teaching me, that we cannot find our peace, love, joy, and happiness in the world. What we need
Mm.
to do is we need to turn within to connect to our own inner teacher, our source of inner wisdom. And then from that place of connecting to the truth of who we are, we go into the world to share that love with other people, with our brothers, as Course in Miracles terms it. And that's how we find our happiness. That is it's a very simple truth.
Hmm.
It's not easy to do because it's not what the world teaches. The world is run on the egoic thought system. That's what Course in Miracles calls negativity, the ego.
Yeah.
But that it's a very simple truth. We need to find the truth, the peace, the love, the joy that we're looking for first within, and then go into the world to share that. So we're coming from a place of abundance, not from a place of lack. Coming from a place of lack just doesn't work.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
good
Uh,
question, Avik. Thank you.
Thank
There's
you.
so
Thank
much
you.
in A Course in Miracles that stimulates my passion. So I could go on and on and on.
That's so lovely. Again, we'll come to you for sure, Susan. So I'll quickly come to Jen. So Jen, like your story is also very powerful, and so if you can also share how you went from like struggling with the chronic gut issues to becoming a sought after expert in the functional medicine.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for that question. I just wanted to say really quickly too, Susan, I'm
Mhm.
so glad that that didn't work out and that you're
Yeah.
here and that you're sharing your message. Obviously, you have a great passion and sunshine surrounding you and a wonderful mission to share your message. So I'm glad to share this space with you today. As far as my personal journey goes, I was a preemie baby. I wasn't breastfed. So, I was already starting out with kind of an impaired immune function and gut microbiome. And as a child, I often ended up with random viruses and was sick a lot and always had a stomach ache. I was the child that was constantly in the nurse's office asking for the heating pad, or my
Oh.
mom would be giving me these like fiber drinks to, consume every day because she thought that's what would help. And went through my childhood and teen years really suffering. And then once I got to be an older teen, I started sort of self-medicating with ibuprofen and Pepto-Bismol and all of these
Mhm.
over-the-counter types of things to try to help myself feel better. And along that way too, I was always kind of a perfectionist, straight A student, in many clubs and a gymnast and all kinds of things, trying to stay active. Did some dance for many years and just kind of was always busy and didn't really have any downtime in my life growing up. And that pattern kind of continued throughout college, kind of an overachiever, doing internships and part-time jobs and going to school and all the things to keep myself busy and not really, checking in with my emotional health as well and how that was connected to what was going on in my gut, just keeping myself busy so I wouldn't have to think about things, right? This is a common thing that happens, I think, for many of us.
Mm.
And ended up getting married, had my two children back to back, have been in a couple of car accidents, lots of trauma to my body, both physically and emotionally. Um, and once I got, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur as well. So I was running a gluten-free bakery at the time. I kind of figured out that gluten was not my
Wow.
friend. And did that for many years, was waking up, before the sunshine to do all the baking. And eventually I think that whole routine just came kind of crashing down on me. I was, you know, trying to travel with my kids to soccer games and um, had this idea to kind of go back to school to be a health coach and, just like on and on and on, stacking on top, right? And still
Mm.
dealing with digestive issues, not really getting any answers there. And eventually I ended up with broken heart syndrome, which is called Takotsubo myocardiopathy. Oh my gosh, it's a tongue twister. And so essentially what that is when your body has experienced an extreme stressor or a
Mm.
trauma, and lots of times it happens with, for instance, like an elderly person who has lost their loved one after decades of being together and, that
Mm.
extreme loss.
True.
And I was young, right? And I just thought there has to be more to life than this, and I still had young children at the time. And it really kind of put me in a new mental, emotional place to be more motivated and dedicated to taking care of myself. And, I will say that it has been a journey. It wasn't like I woke up one
I
day and
would
all of a
agree.
sudden I'm healthy and happy. It took a really long time. And I'm still working through that. It's a daily challenge for me because I still have that self-talk like, oh, you're going to take a
Hmm.
break? What are you, lazy? Those are the things that we kind of have to work through. And now this has kind of become my mission and my passion and my practice. I put
Hmm.
myself through functional medicine school because I really wanted that science and research and, more information about how all of our body systems are connected and how our gut health
True.
really affects our mental wellness, our mental well-being, our mood balance, and all of that. And so I kind of dove down that rabbit hole and spent many years researching, experimenting on myself and also my coaching clients. And eventually decided to rebrand myself as the SIBO coach because word got out that I was helping people overcome
Hmm.
their SIBO as well. And so that's kind of how I ended up where I am. And over the last few years, my messaging has really sort of changed as well as my practice into focusing more on what is that brain gut connection. And we
Ah,
aren't just our small intestines, we are a whole person experiencing things differently. We
exactly.
have relationships and, our own personal missions that we want to accomplish. And how can we optimize our gut health and
Hmm.
overall health so that we can accomplish those things? So that's kind of how I
Amazing.
ended up where I am.
Amazing. Yeah. And also on this, like, you had the turning point with the broken heart syndrome, right? So you were mentioning. So how did that moment uh, actually shape the perspective on the healing, if you can share?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll kind of relate. I mean, obviously, I don't know what your personal experience was with your mental health, Susan, but um, I will just speak to this personally. Having all of these health issues and feeling kind of stuck in this body that wasn't operating how my mind wanted it to be,
Hmm.
um, it really caused a lot of anxiety and depression at times. I also had postpartum depression, just like my hormones and microbiome were just out of whack, right? And so when I finally had this experience of the broken heart syndrome, um, at first it was like a shock, right? Like, wow, I could like not be around right now, right?
Yeah.
I could have died. Um, and also it puts me in a position where I do have to be really careful about my stress moving forward. So it helps motivate me in such a way where I'm constantly thinking about, okay, I have a heavy load today. I have back-to-back
Oh, yeah, yeah.
clients. I'm going to be on a podcast interview. I'm going to write this article for a magazine or whatever is happening that day. I do have to remember, okay, Jen, how can we incorporate 5 minutes here,
Mhm.
5 minutes there? Um, where am I blocking on my calendar that's going to be time just for me? That's quiet time, that's downtime. And sometimes that looks like being creative, like playing music on my guitar, or I'm taking singing lessons now. And so it has kind of
Hmm.
and motivated me to really think about what's going to help me calm my nervous system on a regular basis to reset back into parasympathetic. And that's really where the healing occurs.
Yeah.
And so I would say probably that is the biggest shift or the change in motivation since that event. Yeah.
Mhm. Got it.
Yeah. Great
That's
question.
lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's a great way of learning for all of us, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Mhm.
And also, I'll again come back to Susan. So Susan, like, I mean, definitely would love to dive deeper into the spiritual growth. So many people feel stuck in the patterns of pain and the fear. So how can they start? I mean, if you can share, like, how can they start breaking free?
My second chapter is entitled Sitting with the Pain in Order to Feel Our Joy. I
Yeah.
love what Jen just shared too. I find that I have so much in common. We all, when we get deep enough down, you'd be surprised how much we all have in common. And to start the healing process, I think it's so much more than just thinking positive thoughts. although the love is all that is real. And my first self-help book many, many years ago was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And I found that as I started to think positively, I mean, there were certain changes. Some of them were even superficial. I mean, it's definitely better to think positive than negative. However, in order to for me to start truly transforming, we really need to allow that inner unconscious pain to come
Mm,
to the surface so it can heal. And there's a huge difference between depression and sadness. Depression is actually a block. It blocks our healing. You know, we just feel shut down. We feel
mm,
stuck. What we really need to do is, in order to heal, is we need to feel the sadness. A lot of us, as we start to heal, like initially, we'll feel a lot of anger and rage, and it's so healthy just to allow that to surface, not to project it onto other people,
yeah.
but just allow it to be. And for me, I just try to give it to God, and then underneath the anger, there's a lot of sadness. So to really feel anger and to feel sadness, that's how we heal, as opposed to depression. Depression keeps us stuck, but feeling our feelings fully allows healing to take place. So my
Mm,
second chapter in Surrender to Joy is entitled Depression is My Darkness. And I start with a line from a poem that was written by Oriah Mountain Dreamer entitled The
okay.
Invitation. It's such a brilliant poem. So in the middle of her poem, she writes, I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without
Okay.
trying to hide it or fade it or fix it. And this is the first step for healing, to really identify the pain and to sit with the pain, and not blame outside circumstances or other people for that pain. Just own the pain. And the very next line states, I want to know if you can dance with joy, allow the ecstasy to fill you to the tips of your fingers, from the tips of your fingers to the bottom of your toes, without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. Now, why is that line about joy immediately
Mm,
after the line about pain? Is because we need to identify and own the pain, which are the blocks, before we can really feel the truth of who we are. I mean, that's how the process starts. I mean, even A Course in Miracles says it cannot teach us the meaning of love, because love is who and what we are. The only thing it can help us do is identify the blocks. So when the blocks arise, we can choose to release them. So
mm,
the process of transformation starts with owning the pain. Although the pain is not real, A Course in Miracles clearly states the only real emotion is love. But I believe that we all came down to this earthly classroom, to learn certain soul lessons. We all came down here really to transform fear to love. So we need to identify the pain points so we can release the
mm.
pain points and get back to the truth of who we are.
Okay. That's amazing. That's amazing. And also on this perspective only, I wanted to ask, like, you mentioned forgiveness and gratitude as the keys to the transformation. So any example you can share?
Yes, again, an excellent question. A Course in Miracles is very clear that the
Mm,
only way to feel the truth of who we are is forgiveness. Forgiveness is our way out of hell, as it is now manifest on this earthly plane. So there's so much that goes into that. Now, our true state is one of
mm,
peace, love, joy, and happiness. In heaven, forgiveness is not needed because there is no condemnation. I mean, God doesn't even need to forgive us because God is incapable of condemning us. So he never even sees our faults, he just
Mm,
loves us unconditionally. But we are trying to remember the truth of who we are. And in order to feel that incredible joy, that incredible unconditional love, we need to forgive our brothers, forgive other people, and forgive ourselves.
okay.
Because when we start blaming other people, criticizing other people, we disconnect ourselves from God. When we start blaming ourselves, condemning ourselves, criticizing ourselves, we disconnect from God.
Mm,
So the only way to be happy is to forgive. The only way to uh, feel the joy that we were meant to experience. I mean, A Course in Miracles is very clear. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Now,
mm,
some people, you don't even have to call this entity of unconditional love God. You can call
yeah.
this whatever you want to call it. But in order to feel the truth of who we are, we need to forgive. I mean,
Mm,
this is what Course in Miracles is teaching us. The only way to experience peace is to forgive our brother and forgive ourselves. And again, it's very simple. It's a very simple truth, but it's not easy because it's not what is happening in the world today.
mm,
You just turn on the news and the left is blaming the right. The right is blaming the left. Everybody loves to
exactly.
blame the other party, blame other people, project their fear. That's what it is, projecting their fear. So it's not how the world is run, but it's the only way to feel peace. And that's what
True.
A Course in Miracles is teaching us, is to feel peace. And in terms of gratitude, that's something else. God
Mm,
does not need our gratitude, but we need to be grateful for everything we have, because that's the only way we can experience love, experience
yeah.
happiness, experience joy, just to embody that state. Because every time we can connect to a state that's based on love, forgiveness, gratitude. I mean, A Course in Miracles teaches the three easiest ways to remember who we are: forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude. Forgiving ourself and our brother, and that's embodying our own innocence. Acceptance, accepting everything in our life exactly as it is now. I have this wonderful affirmation that I say throughout
Mhm.
the day. What if everything is just perfect right here, right now? I mean,
Yeah.
Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. When we resist things, we keep ourselves in a state of angst. When we
Yeah.
accept things, we enter into a world of peace, a
Mm,
mindset of peace. A Course in Miracles is mind training and
true.
gratitude. I mean, I remember years ago, I was a big brother. I was part of a big brother, big sister program, I should say.
Okay.
I was a big
All right.
sister. And I remember I had two little sisters, when I was living in Manhattan. One of the little girls, she was like so grateful for everything that I brought her, when I would come to see her each week. And the other little sister, I could never please her. It was
Okay.
never good enough. So, I mean, which was I more drawn to? Obviously, the one that was grateful, because,
Mm,
when we're grateful for things, God just wants to give us more. You'll notice that when you start showing gratitude for what you have, the universe just gives you more and more and more, because it's a high energetic vibration. And the
yeah.
higher our energy gets, the more we attract to us.
Mm,
So, yes, great question, Avik. Forgiveness, and I will add acceptance and gratitude, are one of three of the most empowering mindsets that we can tap into.
lovely. That's really amazing, I have to say. Great. And so I'll come to Jen. So Jen, like on the science side of things, like what do you think? Like, how does chronic stress and uh, trauma impact the gut health?
Yeah, so I just wanted to take a quick second to reflect back some of what Susan was saying, and relates to what your question is.
Mhm.
So, in your self-healing journey, when you're trying to overcome something chronic, whether it's a gut issue or otherwise,
Yeah.
your mindset is everything, right?
Mm.
And the interesting thing is that we know that there is what we call the vagus nerve. It's the super highway of information going from your brain to your gut and vice versa.
Mm.
And once upon a time, we used to think that it was more information coming from the brain to the gut, but now we know that it's actually the microbes in charge.
Yeah.
And so the microbes are constantly surveying our environment, whether or not we feel
Mm.
safe, and sending that signal back up to the brain. And so that can affect
Mhm.
our outlook on life, our self-talk, and our mindset in general, which we
Mhm.
know can affect our overall health, right? Our motivation,
Yeah.
our focus, our willingness to feel peace and happiness and joy, right?
Mm. Mm.
And can really feed into things like anxiety and depression, isolation and frustration, which can really then it's a forward feeding cycle. When we feel those types of feelings, we don't feel motivated to try to make good decisions to help ourselves
Yeah.
feel better. And so we can kind of get stuck in that place. I know with SIBO specifically, and also just any kind of other gut dysfunction
Mhm.
or distress that we're experiencing,
Mhm.
often is rooted in stress, right?
Okay.
Because of that forward feeding signaling going on between the brain and the gut.
Mm.
It's often caused by things like a bout of food poisoning or taking NSAIDs like over-the-counter painkillers or antibiotics. And this can drastically shift our microbiome, and
Mm.
then we get that imbalance, and that leads into that miscommunication or misfiring. Remember, our gut is not just about digestion and assimilation of nutrients, but it's also about
Mm.
making hormones. It's our immune system. That's where we make neurotransmitters that are really
Yeah.
important, like serotonin and dopamine, so for our mental well-being. And so it's definitely all connected, right? We can't just sort of divide and conquer. We really have to be thinking about the whole person and the whole
Mm.
body when we're talking about self-healing, whether it's mental health or physical health.
True.
And I
Amazing.
like what Susan was saying. There are many things that we can incorporate into our self-healing journey. Things that I like to recommend in my practice are things like journaling so that we can peel
Mhm.
away those layers of the onion and get down to those deeper feelings. I've found in practice over the years, and you may reflect back on this, but I have found that many of my clients with chronic gut conditions often have some sort of trauma or experience or grief tied up into why they are stuck in that unwell place. So, interestingly, in my early years of study, I went into the world of traditional Chinese medicine. So, for example, in that tradition, we have energetic meridians, right? And
Mhm.
this goes above and beyond whatever your spiritual beliefs are, right? But we know that we are
Yeah.
energetic beings and we have constant electrical frequencies moving throughout our body. And in that traditional Chinese medicine theory or idea, we have energetic meridians. And so, two of them that are
Mm.
related are the lungs and the large intestine. And we know emotionally in the lungs, we carry our grief and our sadness or things that we
Yeah.
can't let go of. So you might end up seeing things like constipation and bloating.
Mhm.
And then also, the small intestines is intimately related to or connected with the heart meridian, which
Okay.
when we're feeling sadness, um, overwhelm, and things like that, loss, can affect our small intestines, which is, mostly what I'm dealing with
Mm.
in my practice
Okay.
with SIBO. But we know that that can dysregulate things as well. So oftentimes, I always like to kind of reflect back on my own
Mm.
experience with SIBO and broken heart syndrome, for instance. I had a lot of emotional trauma that was being held in my body that I was not addressing or dealing with or processing.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so for me, that was kind of a connection. And so I try to see my clients as that whole emotional, mental person having this physical experience, and how are they connected? So I'd like to ask more questions about that. But going back to what I was saying earlier and Susan's comment about different ways
Mm,
that we can elevate our well-being through forgiveness and acceptance, and gratitude, those are all things that we talk about when we're talking about gut healing as well. And it's
exactly.
unexpected sometimes, but they are part of what we talk about in the session. So yeah.
That's amazing. Yes, that's really lovely. And so this is to both of you. Let's talk about self-love. Uh, like, I mean, both of you been on these deep journeys of the self-discovery. So, how has self-love played a role in your healing and the success? I mean, anyone to start with? I mean, anyone.
Yeah. I'll let you go, Susan.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I love what you say, Jen. I really do. I can relate to just so much of it. And in terms of self-love, I mean, basically, that is everything because we can't give to our brother, which is
Mm,
Course in Miracles terminology. We can't give to another person anything that we can't find within ourselves. So it's basically impossible for me to love another person truly until I can love myself
right.
first. So that's why self-care, it's selfish and selfless at the same time. you know a Course in Miracles is teaching us to become a miracle worker, to
Mm,
extend God's divine love to our brother, to become a channel for God's love. God is again this essence of unconditional love that we are all a part of. God is the ocean and we are all waves, but we can't truly love our brother. We can't truly extend love to our brother until we embrace our own
mm,
innocence. Um, a Course in Miracles talks about a special relationship as compared to a holy relationship. A special relationship is really of the ego, which is negative. A holy relationship is of God, which is positive. A special relationship, maybe you could compare it to a codependent relationship. A holy relationship would be an interdependent relationship. So again, if I don't love myself, and I have had so many dysfunctional relationships, I have had
yeah.
so many just dysfunctional relationship based on lack. I looked to a person because I felt less than, and I was looking to him to give me something that I didn't think I had. So it was a very needy type of connection. And again, this is based on wanting to get something from my partner. And that is what relationships look like with not enough self love, because I'm looking to him to get something because I feel so incomplete. I'm coming from a place of lack. So again, as I practice self-care and I work on loving myself first, then I go
Mm,
into relationships. I'm married now and my husband is a Course in Miracles student as well. So when I interact with him, and obviously it's not the perfect relationship, we're still learning and
okay.
we're still growing, but when I can come from a place of fullness and just extend love to him, then I find that we get along so much better and I feel so much better and I feel so much more joyful. So without self-love, I'm always looking to get, and the way you relate to other people, like most people think of romantic relationships,
Mm,
as the most important thing, but romantic relationships are not the most important thing. We're having relationships all the time with everyone. So when I look to another person to get something, that's
Mm,
an unhealthy way to relate to other people and an unhealthy way to relate to the world when I don't practice self-care and I don't love myself. But again, when I practice self-care, I meditate in the mornings, it's and I pray in the mornings and I remember who I am. I start the day from a place of connecting to God. I call it I start the day being plugged into my God socket,
mhm,
then I can go into the world and I don't need anything from other people. When I interact with people, whether they be friends or acquaintances or people that I run into along my path, I practice being kind, I practice being
mm,
compassionate, and as I extend love to my brother, I feel better about myself. So, in terms of self love, I mean, we cannot love anyone else without loving ourselves first. Loving
exactly.
ourselves first is the most important thing.
Exactly. Very true.
Well
Jen.
said, Susan.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'll just add my few thoughts here. So, through the lens of my practice and my personal experience,
Mm,
the self-love idea is at the top of the list, right? So, a lot of people are coming to me who have been stuck in this cycle of chronic illness. They're
mhm,
frustrated, they're depressed, they're isolated, they're disconnected from their
mm,
relationships. They can also start blaming other people, like doctors, like that doctor didn't fix me or heal me. And so, or, my spouse is the cause of all my problems. And we kind of get caught up in that. We can also kind of end up being caught up in what I like to call protocol
mm,
perfectionism and being hard on ourselves because we weren't 100% compliant to whatever that
oh,
plan or strategy was to address your illness. And so there can be some self-hatred or disloyalty to ourselves in that situation. Um, I think the other thing too is just really understanding when we are on a self-healing journey, owning your power as your own advocate and really seeing yourself in a new light of being able to, yes, I can heal myself. I have the power. My
mm,
body innately knows how to heal itself if I give it the right tools in the space, right? And so thinking about it in terms of that, I like to give this analogy. I heard this from one of my colleagues once. You know how we always say you can't pour from an empty cup when we're serving other
yeah.
people. And I like this analogy of a teacup sitting on a saucer. So she says, fill up your teacup until it's overflowing and then serve others from the saucer, not your cup. So
Oh.
keep your cup full at all times. And this has kind of been an interesting journey for me personally. And
Mhm,
I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, Avik. But I this was a challenge for me because I was always that perfectionist, overachiever type person, a people pleaser, afraid that I would disappoint other people.
mhm,
So constantly going, going, going to help other people before myself, and really kind of learning how to shift into a place where I give myself permission to take care of myself first. What is going to bring me joy at this moment? What do I need? Like that, I say that in the morning when I wake up.
mm,
What do I need today? Before I even come to my office and then start talking about what everyone else needs, right? And so, for me, that looks like different things. It might be a hot Epsom salts bath at night before I go to bed. It might be going on a walk with my dog out in nature. It might be doing qigong between my clients so that I can reset my own energy. Those are ways that I find help me be more loyal to myself and my own personal healing journey. So I'd love to ask
mm.
you, I'm going to flip the script here and ask you, Avik, what are some things you like to do to express your self-love for yourself?
Oh, to others or for myself?
For yourself. Yeah.
Oh, for myself, self-love is something which alone time for me.
Yeah.
Uh, so most of the times I love to listen to the music. I feel something like uh, when I'm at my home. so there is a space basically. So I which I love the most. Uh, Whatever happened outside the home. I mean, suppose I was doing something, I was working, I was there. So when I come back home and I feel like I need some time for me, I'll be there that place, which I feel like the aura and that uh, area or that environment actually helps me feel that, okay, this is me, this is my space, not everyone's space, with music. And yes, that's calm thing I love the most.
Ah, very nice. Yes,
Yeah.
music can be transformational for
Yes.
sure. Our
Yeah.
cells can feel the vibration of music, so it can change our mood instantly.
Hmm.
I like
Exactly.
that too. I was going to reflect back on something you said was, your home now is kind of like your
Mm.
boundary from the outside
True.
world. And that's something that we talk about a lot in practice when I'm working with a client in session is understanding what your boundaries are and if you need to reset them or not.
Mm.
And then really being that self-loyal to yourself to keep those boundaries, especially when you're in a healing journey. I like to
Mhm.
say surround yourself with a golden bubble of light, and that's your protection
Mm.
from other people's energy. Like keep it separated, and be responsible for your own energy. And that's a way that we can also, practice self-love. So, yeah,
Lovely.
great. I love that for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And yeah, it was a really a fun having discussion about this uh very important topics, and learning from your experiences. I believe that that is gonna some uh great lessons for the listeners, and they will be definitely able to resonate as well. So yeah, and I have to say this is really an incredible conversation with both of you. So Susan, like your journey from despair to joy is definitely a kind of testament to the power of healing and at the same time forgiveness. And on the other hand, Jen, like your passion for gut health is truly inspiring. So thank you both of you for showing us that we don't have to uh, settle for the chronic health struggles. It's really very important. And uh, on that note, for the listeners, I like to mention, like, the listeners, remember that healing is definitely possible, whether through the spiritual practice or from the functional medicine. The path to the well-being starts with awareness and the actions that we take. Uh, so, like Susan and Jen, like if someone wants to connect with you, have a kind of maybe one-on-one discussion, or want to have more about, learn more about you, so how they can connect. So, Susan.
Well, for me, my website is surrendertojoy.net,
Mhm.
www.surrendertojoy.net. And my book, Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity, is available on Amazon for only $12.96. You can go on to my website and buy my book from there. And that would be how your listeners or anyone that's listening to our podcast can get in touch with me. Thank you so much for asking.
Lovely. And Jen.
Yeah, I'm going to check out your book, Susan.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
See, you have the first buy
Yeah,
from you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the best way for people to contact me is through my website. That's kind of my hub. So it's www.thesibocoach.com. That's SIBO,
Mhm.
stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And there you will find information about me and my personal journey. Also, I have some freebies on there. I have a quiz. Are you curious? Do you have SIBO? You can take the quiz, no strings attached. And really, at this point, I'm just, excited about meeting really motivated, committed women who are in it to win it at this point, who are tired of letting their gut health hold them back and keeping them playing small, whether it's their business or their family or whatever. And those are the people that I love working with the most because they're determined and committed and motivated to make the change. The whole body, mind, and soul approach that I use in my practice is
Hmm.
really the key to kind of overcoming these chronic conditions. So that's the best way to find me at thesibocoach.com.
Lovely. That's really awesome. So, dear listeners, if you have loved today's episode, be sure to follow Healthy Waves and share this conversation with someone who actually needs to hear this. And do not forget to follow Susan and Zen for their work and Susan book, and also check out Jen's website. I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference, dear listeners. And let's go check out. And until next time, stay mindful, stay curious, and keep riding the waves of growth and transformation. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. It's a great conversation.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much
that
for
was
having
so
us.
much fun. I'm going to check out your website, Jen. Yeah, I
Oh,
loved what
thank
you said.
you.
We have so much in common.
Yes, yes. And I didn't share this on the call, but I lost my brother to suicide in 2020 because of mental illness and likely chronic gut issues, unfortunately. There was a period of time where I was able to help him and he was feeling better and out in the world and less anxiety and all the things. And then COVID hit and he was at home and he had this psychiatrist that was prescribing all of these different medications in a short period of time. And he just didn't fare well being locked down and during COVID and eventually decided to take his own life. And so I'm so glad that that didn't happen for you and that you're on a new path and that now you're sharing this message with other people to hopefully save them, to help them save themselves. Yeah. So
I'm
thank
so
you for
sorry,
sharing your
Jen.
story.
You're very welcome. I'm so sorry about your brother. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, should I share that on the podcast or not? I don't know. But yeah, so just thank you for your mission and your passion. So thank you for having both
Oh,
of us here. I've never done a combo podcast before, which is kind of cool.
it was very cool, Avik. Thank you so much. I know I enjoyed it too.
Oops, can't hear you.
Oh, yeah. We can't hear you, Avik.
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
Okay. So that's really really great. I mean, I really enjoyed discussing this very important topic. And Jen, like uh, really really sorry, but definitely I would say do share this, because what happened, I also had some uh, backstory of mine with COVID. So I have definitely shared this over webs on my website, and I am also do sharing the same thing. So yeah, I guess my mission started from there itself, why I'm just creating this many shows, and why I want to do that. So I definitely wanted to create a support group or kind of library for everyone who actually needs to learn this, because what you have shared today, your experiences will definitely save one life at least, uh, who will listen, and they will I mean, get to learn from you. So that
Yeah,
is what my mission is. So do share. I mean, it's really great.
yeah, yeah, very
Avik,
good.
where are you? Just out of curiosity, where are you
I,
located?
I'm in India.
I okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So is it like what day is it there?
It's Wednesday, 11 p.m. right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
late
I
at
know
night.
there's a
Okay,
big
yeah.
time difference. And
Yeah.
are you gonna send us a link to the podcast once you get it out there, like via
Yes.
email, Avik?
So email thing will be SEO based, so which will take much time, so which will take a kind of a month time.
Okay.
But the direct link which will be posted on, so it will be one link which will be having your Spotify, your Apple, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything, it will be there. So we'll share that link over Podmatch. So I'll quickly request if you go to Podmatch right now once.
Oh, so it's going to be sent through Podmatch. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just go to
Okay.
Podmatch and you will see there is a button called confirm. So once you click on that confirm button, then only I'll get that button to upload the episode link. So this is just a formality of the
I see.
Podmatch.
Okay.
And
So
then you're gonna upload it onto Podmatch first, Avik?
No, so I'll
The
upload it first to all the platforms like Apple, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere, and we'll have that one link. So that one link I'll share it on
Mhm.
Podmatch. So that one link will be good enough for you to share everywhere.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So if you can go to Podmatch now,
yeah, I will, and just confirm it, right?
yeah, yeah, just confirm it. Yeah,
So is it under messages? Is that where it's at?
yeah, yeah. So when you go to
Yeah,
Podmatch
yeah,
messages, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Oh
could
yeah.
you possibly email it to me too in a month?
Yes,
You
yes,
will?
yes.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much. So you want me to confirm it now with you still here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
I
doing
can
that.
I
Okay.
can immediately share it. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okie
And
dokie.
so we have total 14 podcast shows, and so out of which five I'm hosting, and rest Sana, Anya, and Saima, three of my podcast hosts, they are also hosting. So you do check out those shows as well. So I'm just sharing the link here on the Zoom chat. It will take you to my website, and you'll be able to see all the podcast shows. So it will directly take you to the pod match. And also do check out my about section, which is having my story as well. So I'm also trying to come to other shows to share that. So yeah.
Okay, great.
Okie dokie. Well, I'm confirming now.
Oh, perfect,
Yeah, I
perfect.
confirmed mine. And I would just like to ask if either of you, and I'll do the
Mm,
same for you as well, if
mm,
either
mm.
of you have any ideas of any other shows that might have an audience that might be open to my message, I would appreciate a referral.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
Yeah.
So what I can do is, Jen and Susan, so I have my newsletter having 8,000 plus subscribers. So I'll share both of your profiles. If you can just share me a link or something about yourself,
Okay.
I'll share them. And if I mean, if they want to have you on the shows, I mean, it's really great.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you want me to share, like I have my pod match profile, I have my
Anything.
website. We share both of those, Avik?
Yeah, yeah, that work. That work.
Well, thank you both again. It was great meeting you, and
It
I hope
was
you
great
all
meeting
have
you, and I hope
a
we can stay in touch. I am going to check out your website,
Yeah.
Jen.
yes.
Yeah,
Thank you
you're
so
both so
much.
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Lovely.
you.
Great.
I'll talk to you
Great.
soon.